What is going on, everybody? King of Chaos, Logan Black here, although you're probably checking this out on my personal page, and welcome to another week of Dude, have you heard this? It's the music roundtable show where a bunch of friends sit around and talk about some of our favorite under-the-radar albums. With me, as always, are both Johnny Torres and Scotty Ceriti. Gentlemen, sound it off.
What's going on, everybody?
What's happening, y'all?
And joining us this week, if you've gone to wrestling shows in the Northeast, you are very familiar with the back of his head at ringside. Photographer, Tim Crockett. Tim, how you doing?
I'm alright. How's it hanging?
Short, shriveled, and always to the left.
Nice.
So this week, we decided to, after last week's incredible new metal episode, that I think I speak for everybody when it was like that was one of the most fun, we decided to kind of make this week a bit gimmicky as well. As in, every album that you will be, we'll be talking about is under 35 minutes in length. In an interesting mix, I might say, but also we are bringing back last week's ever popular grading system for each album, which is not necessarily where we feel that this is, graded 1 to 10, good or bad. No, we're grading it based on what it does within the genre, how it fits the sound of the genre that music is made in. But let's hop right to it. I want to go directly first because I'm giddy and excited and happy. We're starting with Tim's pick. So Tim, let us know what you picked, why you picked it, and any other details you want to give.
I picked Napalm Death's From Obliteration to Enslavement. It is a essential grindcore album. Some would say it's more essential than their first. And it's a really bombastic album. Starts out kind of slow and it tricks you in and you're just like, what the hell is this? This isn't fast at all. What? I don't understand. And then it just punches you in the face with just pure speed and brutality and all that nonsense.
Yeah, this album is, I would say, the sonic equivalent of a severe ass beating. It is.
Yeah, that's a good analogy for it.
Yeah, man. It's I fucking love Napalm Death. So when you picked this, I was like, yep. And the cool thing about the band is there are quite a few very short albums, so you could have picked any of them. But this one is I personally happen to dig this a lot, but I want to lay it on everybody else before I jump in. Excuse me, Scotty, go ahead and let us know what you thought.
This is probably my new favorite Napalm Death record now that I've sat and had a little bit of time with it and let it digest. It's just assault on all of your senses all at once. Because there were certain songs I could smell a grindcore mosh pit happening right in front of me. And I was just like, oh, that's terrifying. I think Cock Rock Alienation is my favorite Napalm Death song. And yeah, this is just a really great... And for them to be this tight and this disgusting on their second album, that's a big statement.
I know, I wouldn't say that I'm a massive grindcore fan, although literally anything grind that I listen to, I enjoy. But, the songs are so short and the bands are, usually not together very long that, it's hard for me to really, jump into things. I want to just throw out there for anybody watching who might be into grind, and even for you guys, if you haven't heard of it, Slave to the Grind. It's a documentary that pretty much follows the birth of grindcore up until where it is now. Napalm Death is covered in there quite a bit. They do. It's a really good documentary in my opinion because it focuses less on the bands within the scene that scene documentaries will do, and way more on why each band was important in the history of the genre. And additionally, I would say if you're a fan of grindcore, you should 110% subscribe on the YouTube account to Obscene Extreme Festival, which is a outdoor festival that they were doing every year. I'm not quite sure where it is. It's somewhere in Europe, and it's literally just days of grindcore.
I want to say it's Belgium.
I feel like it was either Belgium or one of the Slavic areas.
Yeah.
But I think that just might be the bands.
It also looks like one of the smelliest festivals on the planet.
Oh, 100%. But everybody is smiling and super happy, which I don't think, if you look at the... First of all, the sound of this is not a happy sound. Grindcore doesn't generally have a happy sound. It doesn't have a happy look to it, but everybody at that festival is smiling. They're dancing. It's always fun for me to watch, and that's how I get into a lot of new grind bands is through that account. Johnny, what did you think of this record?
Just wanted to comment on the observation you've made about, and it applies to a lot of my friends who are grind centric in terms of their musical tastes, but they're all just like the nicest, happiest people. Like they're all like sunshines and rainbows, but then their music is all just, murder, murder, murder. And
It's like
so,
deathmatch wrestling, right?
right, exactly. It's exactly like deathmatch wrestling. It's all the nicest people in the world that'll carve you in half. Like it's
exactly.
But and yeah, I don't really have a giant background with Napalm Death. Like I really only knew Utilitarian from like 2012, 2013, something like that. But so it was just interesting, like working in reverse and seeing like, oh, their songs are about on average a minute shorter here than they were on like a record, 20 years later. But a lot of really wild grooves on this that I wasn't expecting for a grind record for the most part, because that's not usually what I'm looking for.
Right.
But there's just like a couple moments, like in Uncertainty Blurs the Vision, there's like a banshee-like guitar moment that just like made my hair stand on end, which is a funny thing to say. Display to Me, and pretty much from a Display to Me right up until Inconceivable, there was at least one moment where like the song really like hooked me right in, whether it was a groove or just some blazing trail the drummer happened to be laying down that I was tuned in for. Because this kind of music, it's interesting. I have a work playlist that's comprised of like grindcore and trap, but it's anything that I'm not looking to look for. I'm not paying attention to lyrics at all, so I'm just looking for beats and like variety in the sounds I'm getting. So like a lot of this went into that work playlist.
I was gonna say, Scotty put out Cock Rock Alienation, just immediately jumped out like this is my jam right here. I also love the fact that your achievement going into Dead, it was under 10 seconds together, which is just great because I'm sitting there, I'm like, because I put this on while I was working out. And I was expecting the short songs. You know what you're getting with grind. And then, boom, it's just like, all right, that song ends. And the next one's like, oh, that song ends too. All right, great. It's, yeah, man, and you talk about grooves too. I actually put down the way that the bass is played and the production of the bass is just so sludgy and gross. But there's a groove there, and I love that. With that said, because I always come in with a compliment sandwich here, I prefer Barney singing. Just me personally. It's my thing, and I know this is the last record before we got Barney for like the rest of the tenure of the band.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the last record that has Lee Dorian singing on it.
Right. So, and again, that documentary focuses, I think, a bit more on Lee Dorian because they're going with the early stages of things. But with all that said, we got to rate these albums in terms of how it fits into the grindcore genre. So, Scotty, what did you rate this one from 1 out of 10?
10 really angry vocalists out of 10. This is penultimate, like this is ultimate grind here. You can't take it away from that record.
Certainly. Johnny?
Oh man, 10 buckets of corpse paint out of 10, dude.
Tim?
I'm gonna go with 4 ratty dreads out of 5.
See, now the educator in me is sitting there doing the math for the fractions. I put this one as 9 crust punk dogs wearing battle vests out of 10.
There you go.
Before we move on, any other questions, comments, concerns, or feelings about Napalm Death from I'm gonna blank on the name here. Too much head trauma. But on this record. All right, let's move on to Scotty's pick. You know what? Just go with it because I am gonna jump in with a whole bunch of stuff because I got a lot of notes for this one. Go right ahead.
Absolutely. I went with the 1991 album No Pocky for Kitty by indie/punk legend Superchunk, the second album they ever made after their self-titled record, and the last one with their original lineup with their original drummer. I love this record from front to back, and it's a very short front to back. It's somewhere in the 33, 34 minute range. But I think of that classic lineup, these are some of the best songs they all wrote and played together. Skip Steps 1 and 3 down to 30 Extra is probably my favorite lineup of songs in indie music, and that's like a nice first chunk of the record. I could gush about this forever. I love Superchunk's one of my favorite bands of all time.
You know, it's funny because there seems to be a recurring theme here for me is that I'm such a douchebag and a fucking music hipster that like anybody that was smart that wore band shirts of like band, I assumed that band is too smart for me. I can't get into them because they're not made for me. And we go through this every single week. And this was one of those bands that, again, we have former guest of the show, Jamie Fry, the crew that he hung out with, who were all like upper middle class kids in Brooklyn, all with like artsy parents. I've definitely seen a Superchunk shirt, and I'm like, yep, not for me. And I do remember Superchunk records being in my father's collection, but I was too busy pulling Black Sabbath from there to ever jump in on those. So this was my first intro to this band, and holy moly, I really dug what they were doing. It is that there's something about the production of records from 1989 to like 1996-ish in the like alt genre. Man, it just, everything has that sound to it where like those guys really knew how to just get everything mixed wonderfully. But I'm gonna open this up. Tim, what did you think of this Superchunk record?
I thought it was all right. Indie's not really my forte. I do like how the titles of songs are like very like nu metal-ish, just being one or like three words. So I thought that was very interesting. Yeah, that's really all I have to kind of say about it. I thought it was all right.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head where Punch Me Harder could totally be a song by like 40 Below Summer.
Yes.
Who we didn't bring up last week. We did
Shame
not.
on all of yous.
You're a Jersey guy, right, Tim? So yeah, 40 Below Summer is your backyard band right there.
Of course.
I saw them open for Mudvayne in Elizabeth, New Jersey, and the crowd was half Mudvayne fans and half of like the hometown fucking 40 Below fans. Man, what a mix. Let's move on. Johnny, what did you think of this record?
Not a whole lot of background with Superchunk outside of like hopping through some like a compilation playlist I found. So this was really like a first full front to back listen I've ever had with them, and yeah, it just takes you right back to like you said it when you were talking about just the perennial sound from 89 and 96 is also like the perfect radius for it. But yeah, right smack dab in the middle, this sounds like 1991. This isn't like necessarily my go-to 90s sound on the indie punk side. Like I always appreciate it. It's just whenever I'm hunting for 90s music, it's not the first thing I pull out. So for this to be like prioritized and put in front of my face was valuable, and probably going to be digging more into Superchunk as a result. I feel like a broken record saying that, but yeah, no, this was just definitely good, bringing them right into the center. Like yeah, great exposure for me.
So I think it's my understanding. I mean, well, not my understanding. It's my opinion that kind of Seattle had created that alty, grungy sound, and like again, that production we're talking about. There were so many bands getting signed out of Seattle that did it, but this band is not from Seattle. Scotty, where are they from?
I believe they're from Massachusetts, if I remember correctly.
North Carolina.
North Carolina. I was way wrong.
Yeah, I had to look that up. Don't worry about it. Yeah, it's so they are very much in a completely different across the country, and being able to kind of create that sound. And again, this band was formed in '89. This isn't their first record, so like they were really kind of creating that sound when. And again, like it's hard now because everything is on Spotify, everything's on YouTube, everything is everywhere. I could literally access a band in a small town in fucking Beijing if I wanted to right now, like that, in seconds. But back then you couldn't do that. You had to tape trade. You had to, especially like indie music or like music that was underground. So like the interesting thing for me, and I wrote this down, was the fact that Seattle had this alt sound that very much, I think, is similar to this. I mean, they all had a lot of the same influences, without a doubt. I'm hearing a lot of Husker Du on this. But across the country, and you can create this because everybody is listening to those records. You ever hear, like, the theory of, like, every punk band that formed in the U.S., during the first wave were the Stooges and MC5 fans of their like neighborhood, and they found like the Stooges and MC5 fans of like surrounding neighborhoods and came together. That's what I'm kind of feeling for this. Is a lot of those things together. Throwing Things is the one that stood out for me. It played on shuffle because once you finish a record, it plays again. But it played shuffle one after the other for me, and I could continue listening to it. Absolutely love that. With that said, what do we rate this album? I'm going to start with the chooser himself, Scotty Cerriti. What are we giving this album?
I'm giving this one 8 tickets to the Pitchfork Music Festival out of 10. This record was originally released on Matador Records, and when I think a lot of the Matador stuff that I was listening to, this is kind of the sound that I associate with that.
Dopeness, man. Tim, what do you give this one?
I give it 3 red flannel shirts out of 5.
Tremendous. Johnny, what do you give this one?
6 faded acoustic guitars that were left in the sun out of 10.
Oof. That hits close to home. I gave this one 7.5. Quote, holy shit, Hum is reuniting for a tour. Oh, wait, the country is shut down. Thoughts out of 10.
Oh, too real, man.
I know. I think everybody is just completely burnt out and hurt by that whole thing. 2020, you've taken too much from us already. Any other questions, comments, concerns, or feelings about Superchunk?
No, sir.
All right, let's move it on to Johnny Torres's pick. I'm going to warn all of you as we talk about this. I'm probably going to break into my Chris Benet impression because Third Eye Blind is his favorite band, and Johnny picked a Third Eye Blind record. Let us know about it.
Yep, I picked the EP We Are Drugs by Third Eye Blind from 2016. There was a period of time where I just after Out of the Vein just wasn't feeling Third Eye Blind. Maybe the song, the sound was just falling to the wayside for me. And then they dropped The Company of Strangers single, the first track on the EP. And that was enough to be like, whoa! And then gave it a look, and front to back, it's probably one of my favorite short listens, of any band really around. I think the only track that I end up skipping on this usually is Weightless. The rest of them I pretty much will play front to back whenever I put this on. Third Eye Blind is one of those bands where they perfected the arena rock arcing chorus paradigm a long time ago, and now they're just so every new thing you get from them, it's always elements of what you know and love from them, and then you get little tastes of them trying something new. And they tried a whole bunch of things new for them at the time. I mean, the whole backing sound to Queen of Daydreams was nothing like they'd ever really touched on before. Isn't It Pretty and Sherry is a Stoner both are a little more digital, if you will, than what you usually get from a Third Eye Blind record. So it's just them continuing to be experimental, even though they've already they've made their retirement money. They don't have to try that hard anymore. So credit to Stephen Jenkins, because I buried him on an earlier episode. So I had to go into a nice long, really put over Third Eye Blind that you as a person, but you as an artist. So yeah, this is one that just brought me right back into the fold of Third Eye Blind fandom.
So I love that you mentioned that they went more digital with electronic stuff. So this is the first time that I heard that on a Third Eye Blind record. Like I mentioned, Chris plays this band every ride home because he sings along to everything. It keeps everybody awake. It's good. But I haven't really heard him play this, so I literally, when I finished listening to this record, I texted him. I go, hey, thoughts on We Are Drugs? He goes, fucking brilliant, like everything else they do. And then watch him go into detail track by track about what he loved. And he seemed to like the electronic stuff, so that's, I think, a bit of a difference between him and I. But you got to appreciate, when a band is, like you said, they've made their money. They've gold-plated their pools and their mansions. They don't need to do it, but they're continuing to create new music. Gotta love that stuff. Scotty, what were your thoughts on this one?
I had not actively listened to Third Eye Blind, with the exception of Semi-Charmed Life that you can't help but hear everywhere. Since about 2009 or 2010, hearing this blew my mind, because when I stopped listening to it, I was like, wow, this band went from the great to the shits in the span of like 10 years, and that made me really sad. So picking this up and being relatively amazed by how tight everything still sounds and how they're still able, like, this is a really fun listen. They're still able to have fun and put out the stuff that they believe in, but also will still grip in the old fans to be like, no, okay, maybe I was wrong for a minute. Yeah, Isn't It Pretty and Sherry as a Stoner were both great, though. Those were fucking awesome.
It's again, I go back to Chris, because Chris will talk this band up anytime, where he's like, dude, the guitarist, he created his own tuning. So apparently this guy's like a virtuoso, and again, if you listen to that one Third Eye Blind record that broke them huge with, Jumper and Semi in singing his praises. That was great to see. Tim, go right ahead. Let us know what you thought of this one.
Considering the fact that I probably haven't listened to Third Eye Blind since probably the year 2000 in the car on my way to a Toys R Us with my mom, this was a nice change of pace. I thought it brought like a more mature sound out of them, because then again, I haven't listened to them since like 2000. So I thought it was really interesting. I thought it was like a whole different sound of Third Eye Blind than what I remember.
It really is such the first, I mean, and then the record's so short, but the first half was like more of what I expected, and then like, boom, the second half is way electronic, and I think Isn't It Pretty, which like all you guys are like, oh, that song stood out, and like for me it was just like, this is so, because they're up here, we're bouncy, we're jumping, and then it just like we slow it down, which I've been here plenty of times where I'm like, I'm not too huge like when albums like have that one slowdown song. Like I was never a fan of Nothing Else Matters. Like fuck that noise. Give me heavy shit. Give me another Sad But True. You know what I mean? But yeah, like the electronic stuff was a harder listen for me because it's just not my style. But then they end up swooping in and ending it on Cop versus Phone Girl. And man, I think if you know me for 5 minutes, you immediately know that song is going to connect and be dope for me. And that was oh man, what a great tune. This is definitely one of those things that's one of those albums that surprised the hell out of me. Because again, these guys just came out of fucking left field with an album where they're just trying to create some different sounds on. With that said, I'm gonna open it up. What do we rate this album within its genre? Let's start with Johnny because you picked it.
Within their sound, in terms of especially how valuable it was for them taking a next step forward, I would rate this 9 unworn staff lanyards out of 10.
Tim.
I give it 3 semi-charmed lives out of 5.
And Scotty.
I give it 8 random appearances at Bamboozle out of 10.
Fucking A, man. Hell yeah. I even fucking missed those swords. So my thoughts behind it, because for me it wasn't what I expected from this band. This is not, again, a good or bad, just not what I expected from them, because I'd like to hear Jumper about 50,000 times. So I gave this one 6 suburban Midwest moms singing every word to a song about meth addiction out of 10.
Yes, sir.
Very accurate.
It is. Listen, the amount of 13-year-olds when this song I was fucking 10 when this came out, maybe, and fucking holy moly, all of us were singing, taking sips of it through my nose. Oh, whatever.
Doing crystal meth will lift you up until you break. It won't stop. Like what?
That was on VH1, my man. Yes, Suburban Moms forever. With that said, any other questions, comments, concerns, or feelings about We Are Drugs? All right, let's move it to the final one, which is my pick, as it is every week. You think that me listening to, all the punk and hardcore that I listen to, I'd be able to find a lot of records under 35 minutes, but this one was harder for me. But this is a record, the one that I chose, that to me is completely different in a lot of ways, and I'll explain. See, I haven't learned my lesson that I shouldn't be drinking carbonated beverages on the show. But I bought about 50 cans of this stuff, so...
Gotta go.
Gotta start drinking it. Anyway, I picked the album Pretty Buff by Angel Dust. I heard about this band. I was at a Hot Topic in Pennsylvania, searching through the clearance section as I always do, and I was wearing my Trapped Under Ice shirt, and one of the guys there just started talking to me about Trapped Under Ice and stuff like that, and he goes, "Hey, have you checked out Angel Dust?" And I'm like, "I have not." And he's like, "Yeah, the singer from Trapped Under Ice has this side project. It's not really hardcore. They're doing more like, I don't know, like really fast punk rock, like old school hardcore. Check it out." And the first two EPs from Angel Dust are fast punk rock. Maybe like, I think the albums are like 10 and 15 minutes between them. And then they come out with this record where I think the lead singer was just like, "I'm going to embrace my sensitive side. I'm a muscular, pretty dude from Baltimore, and I want a modeling contract, so I'm going to make music that reflects that." And to me, this has so many different interesting sounds on it, and it's a band really just kind of trying to do something different. Again, I'm coming from an angle where I listened to the first couple of Angel Dust records, and again, it's just, if you're listening to this and you haven't heard the band, check out the song Poison off, I think, their first EP, and then check out No Fair off this album, and just compare the two and how different they are. But I want to open it up to you guys before I gush any further. Scotty, what did you think of Angel Dust?
Let me tell you, I had some expectations with a band name like that typed out the way it is. And I was kind of dreading it because that's what I was expecting. But listening through to this is a really, really good record. And you don't even notice, like you say that the first two albums sound nothing like this. You don't even notice it because it sounds like it's a band that's been playing like more of this style for their entire career. There's really not any, like, usually when bands go from heavy to slow, they'll usually have a couple of like getting to know you tracks that don't really necessarily fit with the pace of everything else. This is really well paced. And I got a couple songs. I think it was On My Way the first time I listened to it. I immediately thought of the band AJJ. And that was the vibe I got specifically off that track. So that really stood out to me.
Yeah, again, so much time in the car with Chris, and he had put this record over to me for so long, and I didn't get it until like 10 listens in. Because we were on the car that fucking often. But you could see the change. They did the 2 EPs, and then the album after that was called Rock the Fuck On Forever, which I still think is one of the best album titles ever. And they just throw they randomly just throw a saxophone in there. And they were trying some different stuff, and I think that's what I enjoy most about this, is that it's just the attachment from everything. Johnny, lay it on us. What did you think?
Man, so went into this complete, like didn't look up anything about, who the band was, that it ended up being this super group or anything like that. Just went in, and like the first thing I was getting was like shades of Oasis at times. Like, did Noel Gallagher start another side project that I wasn't aware of? Because I got Oasis sometimes. I got Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds a number of times throughout this. I got Jeff Rosenstock a number of times throughout this, where I thought I was like I had to look at my phone and see, like, did this switch to shuffle to Jeff Rosenstock for some reason? But front to like really, really good. And then you go and look up who's actually, like, who comprises this whole thing, and like who'd been in this in the past, and you see names like the Bad Brains and Gorilla Biscuits, and you're like, well, this isn't par for any of these courses at all. So it just speaks to like all of their range and depth, that they could put out something that would be right at home in like 1995 if they wanted to be, but instead it's 2019, and yeah, really, really good. Yeah, this will definitely be going on a repeat list as well.
The thing for me, I think that is really cool, because I'm a huge fan of Trapped Under Ice. Love that band. And that sound could not be any further from what is going on here. Like, I don't think I've ever heard the singer actually sing with Trapped Under Ice. But here he is crooning like the dude. Like, the dude's been doing it for years, and like, even the early Angel Dust stuff was just straight fast punk. It just, Big Ass Love is the song that I'll play over and over. I'm putting that out there. That's on the playlist. Love that stuff. Tim, lay it on us. I'm really interested to hear what you think of this one.
When I first heard the name Angel Dust, I don't know why, but I thought of the industrial band Angel Spit. So I thought it was kind of like something similar to that. And after listening to this, I was completely fucking wrong, obviously. It kind of reminds me of the band Turnstile that's out now that sort of does like the melodic, like hardcore kind of thing and like the early hardcore stuff. So that's the vibes I got off of this. I thought it was really cool, and it was like another band was doing this sort of style and an ode to like early hardcore.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. A Turnstile is one of those bands that like I always keep in with like Trapped Under Ice, where it's like very much like that older Northeast, or rather East Coast. I don't want to say Northeast, but East Coast hardcore from like the late 80s, early 90s. Like that sound is so prevalent with those bands. So I think it's pretty dope that you made the connection with those bands. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I can gush about this and all this stuff. We're just so catchy, and I think that's the crazy part about it. Because if you go and I saw Trapped Under Ice many years ago, and they're just big angry dudes, and then hey, I've seen this band recently where like it just is on stage with an acoustic guitar, just playing. It's such a different, such a change of pace, and I love to see that. With that said, I would love to hear what you rate this one within the genre. I'm going to start with Johnny.
I mean, it's like within the genre that they're known for, like, it's a tough one to rate because it's so far away from the norm for a lot of them. But I mean, in terms of just showing off that versatility and showing what you can really do, I mean, like this to me from everybody is like a solid 7 out of 10. I don't. In terms of some special rating structure, man, I don't even know. We're just gonna go with 7 Shane Wallets from Hot Topic out of 10 because I don't know what you'd call this, man. Like,
yeah, I mean, I was at a Hot Topic when I first heard about this band, so I'll accept it. I think I bought a Morrissey shirt that day too. So speaking about Stephen Jenkins and shitbag artists, love the art, hate the artist. Tim, what do we give a rating on this one?
I'm going to give it 4 hardcore kids doing karate in the pit out of 5.
Scotty, what do you think about this one?
I'm going to give it 8 fucked up songs that start with a gentle acoustic guitar out of 5.
Brilliant. And I am going to go with 8 Baltimore thugs who will stab you and then croon their way into your hearts out of 10.
Love it.
Well, we left off with no question of the week this week. We're actually recording this a whole lot earlier, but you'll be checking this out on Friday as you usually do. So that's going to be it for this episode. Let's go around. Where can we find everybody on social media? Start with you, Johnny.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at TheConceptJT. And if you're an IWTV subscriber, tune into Limitless Wrestling's The Road tonight.
I'm going to be checking that out as well.
Wednesdays at 7, since this will air on Friday.
But it'll be there on IWTV, correct? You can get it anytime.
Sir. Yes, sir.
On demand. Wrestling on demand. Who'd have thunk it? Scotty.
Twitter and Instagram at SC Ceriti. And when you're done watching The Road on Wednesdays, catch up on some Unsanctioned Pro, because all of our old events are up on IWTV as well.
So much wrestling, I have to just suck all of it in at once. But it's exciting. This is dope. Tim, where can we find you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter at Tim Crockett Sucks. You can find me on Instagram at I Hate Tim Crockett, no spaces, all underscores. And my Facebook page is Tim Crockett Photography.
Brilliant. And you can find me on all social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at King of Chaos NYC. And I'm gonna do this every week until I'm blue in the face or possibly green in the face because I've got 50 of these cans. Check out the Year One Wrestling Podcast. You're checking out this show out on the Year One Wrestling Podcast YouTube account. We've got new series that goes up every single week. Videos, everything, all this cool stuff from your favorite wrestlers and your favorite guests on the podcast. And literally, I just added this podcast to like 3 services that I didn't even know exist. So if you're not finding this podcast, let me know where to put it. Year One Wrestling Podcast on pretty much every platform that you can listen to something on. With that said, for everybody here and for myself, keep on listening and thank you for checking out. Dude, have you heard this?